Hello. Today we're going to attempt a playthrough of DMTNT Hotels, which is a 2 to 5 player cooperative game of pirating. The basic premise is the fact that we've had this big huge battle, and we know of this ship which was called the Skelt's Revenge, which was loaded down with treasure, and we finally got her. But in the middle of the battle we ended up, well, somehow it ended up lighting on fire. But it's taken us so long to get to this ship that we're not going to go down without getting at least a little bit of treasure. So as I play, I'm going to play on the easy version for 2 to 3, which means that I'm going to try to go for 4 treasure instead of the medium, which would be 5, or the harder, which would be 5, and then there's some other things going on. But anyway, so it's pretty much kind of laid out to get started. You'll notice that these tiles are kind of a little off center, and that's because of the fact that when you begin you're going to be playing 2 tiles instead of just 1, and so there's 6 off center tiles since I'm going to be playing with 3 characters. Now one of the other things is you'll see that we have a certain amount of actions, and these little coins represent the actions, and then once you perform an action you'll flip it over so that you can see that you've done one. We also have our Skelt's Revenge cards, our little deckhands, and our character cards. And I'm going to be using Cobalt, I think it's Rowlin or Fallon, which his special ability is that while he's looting, this player gets fatigue as if he were not looting, and I'll kind of show you how that works later on, how fatigue works for walking and running and carrying treasure, because it's a little bit different. We also have these little starting cards, starting items, which you'll see that there's a couple of them. Like his is the bucket, which may lower a fire die in any adjacent room once per turn, but you'll notice how it has the little action symbol up here. So that means that I have to use an action in order to use it, compared to the compass, which does not have an action symbol. So for this one you get a free walk or run action once per turn. So those are kind of the differences between the cards. And as one of your actions, you can actually spend an action to either take an item from another player or from the reserve pile over there. And then if you were to take one from another player, they would actually have to end up taking one from the reserve. They couldn't take it from another player. So one of the other things is we have our little player boards, which this kind of measures fatigue. So every time we're going into a room with fire, as I'll show you, we're going to gain a certain amount of fatigue. And once we reach certain levels, then you can't go into rooms with that dice level. So if I'm over here, I can't go into rooms with 3s, 4s, or 5s. And then 6s don't matter, because 6s mean the thing blew up. Down here we have what you call your battle track. And so you can spend actions to increase your battle strength up to a maximum of 4, and so you'll move this along. And you'll also be able to pick up cutlasses, which you can place here, because once you've used your battle strength it automatically goes down to 0. So your cutlasses, if I had a cutlass here, then it would stop at +1, so I'd always have +1. So that's kind of how the battle boards work, or your boards work. Alright, now one other thing, which is also the other reason why I haven't actually fully gotten set up yet, is I was going to show you something about your main starting board. So you'll see that everywhere that there is a door, so you can see there's a doorway here, and you see the little blue markers right there. Those show you the entrances to the door. So like you see over there as well. Now as you're starting, you'll see that there are 2 blues right there marking the door, but there aren't any blues here, and there aren't any blues there. So that's showing you that the only entrance to get onto and off of the ship is through this center area right here. You couldn't go from over here, even though you have the ships over here. You can't jump off, you have to go through the center off. So I just wanted to show you that before we got set up. Alright, so there's 2 yellow dice and 2 red dice with question marks, so we need to get those set up to see what they are. And like I said, you can't have 6s, so if we happen to roll 6s, we will re-roll them. Down here, this is going to help mark explosions that happen through rooms and powder kegs. Alright, so that one's, actually both the yellows went 6. So we don't want that. So 1 and 2. So I want this 1 close to the entrance. Put this 5 here, this 2 here, this 3 here. And now there's a trap door on there. So anytime you have a trap door, you're going to add one of your little deckhands onto the board. So we'll place him there. I'm going to move these off to the side. And then we'll get started. So for his first one, we have a little powder keg. Now, with the powder keg, what that means is that any time this die reaches a 3, we're going to have an explosion which is going to shoot out this door right here. And then the fire is going to go into an adjacent room where it's going to raise the fire levels in that other room. One other thing about the ship is as I'm placing tiles, I can never go basically below this line because this is the edge of the ship. So of course you can't have some funky ship. So I'm going to put this here to start. And now with the red 1, put a red die with the 1 down there. Now for my second one, it's going to be a 4. We've got 2 doors, so it's a 4. And I'll put it here. And then I'm going to have to go back, because in addition to placing my tiles, I have to go into the bag and see what kind of enemies are going to be there. Okay, so this is a guard. So he's got a strength of 8, so he's actually pretty powerful. And what will happen is once I can defeat the guard, then I'll flip him over, and you can see that we have the treasure. So then I can pick up this treasure and go with it. So he's going to be in that first room, and it gets hard for me to remember about the explosions that are in rooms, so I kind of use another die to kind of help me try to remember if there was something special about that room, so that I can be like, oh hey, there's another die, but let me keep track and see what kind of explosion level we have there. Alright, so now these ones are considered to be crew, a little bit not as powerful, and they will give you a couple of things. Like this particular one gives you grog. So once you get grog, you can either use it immediately to reduce your fatigue by 4, or you can keep it until later and use it later. So we have our map set up. So now he gets to start using his actions. Also, when I'm using my actions, we have this little player aid that'll kind of help out showing what you can do. So I always love when games include player aids. So I can either walk, I can run, I can lower the fire, eliminate deckhands, pick up tokens, arrests, increase my battle strength, or swap my item card. And when I'm looting, there's only 3 actions I can do, which would be the walk, arrest, or swap an item card. And so they have the little looting down there to show you that that's all you can do. I love when they do that, when they add helps like that. This also, if you flip it over, it shows you kind of the order of battle, what happens when you lose. So like I said, very helpful as far as that's concerned. And one of the more, I think, subtle aspects of this game is I think using your items and trading there for other items when you need them. So I'll try to do that, and we'll see how that works. Gotta place all my guys down here, so I'm just gonna place them here to start. Whoops. Sorry about that. Okay. So now we're ready to go. So my first action will be, of course, to board the ship. So flip that marker over. And the reason why I wanted that 1 there is because of the fact that I'm going from a 0. So I'm going from 0 fatigue level into a 1 fatigue level. So because of the fact that I just went into that 1, I'm going to have to raise my fatigue level 1. So now, to help everybody else out, I'm going to fight fire to get rid of that. I'm going to need to take care of this 5 over here. So I'm going to need to move into this room. Now just going into a 0 again, from a 0 into a 5. So now it's going to raise me up 5 more. So now I'm going into 6s. So now, if there was another 5 somewhere on the board, I wouldn't be able to go into that room because I've just crossed the 5 threshold. So I'm going to fight fire again to drop this to a 4. And I think I will do that again to drop this to a 3. So now that turn is done. And actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep this as a 4. But I'm going to use that action to use my bucket to lower a fire die in an adjacent room once per turn. So, because I don't want to go into this room because I'm not ready to fight him yet with him being an 8. But by using this and using that, I get to get rid of this. So it'll be less of a problem in trying to reach that 3. So now I get to draw my Scout's Revenge card. Alright, so this tells you a couple things, this card. For one, it tells you that all 2s that are either red or yellow, we're going to increase 1 level to make them 3s. And I don't have any 2s on the... Well, actually I do right here. There's a 2 right there. So we're going to increase this to a 3. Now, what else it means is that we're going to have crew movement. So the guard, like I said, he's busy guarding his treasure. He's not going anywhere. But the crew will move. So this one will move towards the closest pirate or player. So he moves over there. And so now we discard the card. And now we go to the next player, Crimson Flynn. So I'm going to use my free movement to get on board the ship. And then then I'm going to move into this room with the deckhand. And I'm going to use another action to fight fire to make this a 2. And I'm going to use another action to get rid of this guy. And actually I'm cheating because I should have had this out. So let's draw our tiles. So that's a 2. I want this close by. So we'll place this here. And now one other thing is with this, you can see that there isn't a number on it. So this means that for right now we're not going to be placing a die on this card. But I do want my little reminder one. And it gets a token. So I have another guard, a little bit better. He's a 7. Another tile, which is a 3 with 3 doors. So we'll place this over here. That's a yellow. So yellow 3. Another guard for an 8. Now when he went into that room, he was a 4. So he has to take his 4 fatigue, which I forgot to do. Okay. So now he still has one more action. And he needs to get in that room, so I think I'm going to spend my last action to increase my battle strength. Moving it +1. Alright, now it's Lydia's turn, and her special ability is she gets 6 actions instead of 5. Crimson Flynn's ability was that he gets to fight fire in adjacent rooms. And like I said, Lydia's. And then her special ability for right now, her special item is the blanket, which she can lower a die by 2 once per turn. So it's kind of helpful for an action. Alright, so she gets a red 4. Okay. So what kind of token we get? Which is going to be a crew. Go back because Flynn needs to do his Skull Revenge card. So all my 1s become 2s. Which I don't have any 1s, red 1s. And then all of my trap doors gain a deckhand. And there's only the 1 for right now. She gets a yellow 4, which we'll put here. And let's see what we get. Another guard for a 6. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, we've got, so I need 4 treasure. We've got 4 guards out, all close together. So maybe, we'll see. Maybe good things will happen, maybe they won't. Alright, so she's gonna go. So flip this one to get on the ship. That's a 0 to 0, so we're good. And then she'll move 1 more to go into this room. So that's a 4. So our fatigue raises up to 4. Going from 0 to a 4. Now she'll raise, man, he's a 7. So I'm going to use 3 actions. Nope. 2 actions to raise my battle strength up 1. And then I think I'm going to use an action to swap my blanket for the sword. So what the sword does is it's going to give me a +1 strength in battle. So that's a +3, which, I mean, I could have just spent another action to do that as well, but we'll see how that works. And then I'm going to do my last action to move into this room with the guard. So now that I've moved into a room with the guard, I'm going to have to fight him. But fighting is a free action, and it can happen at any time. Anytime a crew moves into your space, even if it's not your turn, you can have to fight them. So on one of the ones where you draw a revenge card and they start moving, if they move into your space, you have to fight them. And you have to fight them first. That's immediate. So I couldn't move into that room and then up my battle strength because it's immediate. That's why I had to do that before I moved into that room. So now that I'm in there, I'm going to have to fight. So I'm going to roll my battle die. And I got a 4. So 4 is not going to do it. So I'm going to need 3 more to match him in order to beat him, which I have because I raised my battle strength +2. Plus I got my sword, which gave me a +1 for a +3 overall. So that's 7. So because I used it, my battle strength goes down to 0. He's defeated though. So we flip him to his treasure side. And that was all of her actions. So we are done with her, except for drawing the revenge card. Ooh. Now this card, because it's a 5, is an explosion because, like I said, you can't have 6s. And I don't have any 5s on the board, so that's good. But this question mark right here is basically telling you that it's an explosion. There's a lot of confusion over what that means. Now, it is recommended, and I do it, to keep the explosion cards separate. You just have to remember that once we have 3 of these cards, the normal deck, the discard pile, everything is going to be shuffled back together to create a new deck. So I'll put this aside so I can remember that we have 1 of them out. And we shall move to Cobalt again. So I think first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to let him rest. Now that's also one thing that I do, which I don't think you're supposed to do, but I just leave them whatever side they are, and then I just reflip them over. That way I don't have to reset everything. So whenever I rest, you're going to lower your fatigue too. So he just lowered back down to a 4. So now he can go into rooms with 5s now. I think I will do that one more time. Go down to a 2. Yes, and then I'm going to move into here. I'm going to spend an action to pick up a token. So I'm going to take the treasure and I'm going to place it onto my board. And then I'm going to move 1. So I'm going from a 0 into a 4, which is going to increase my fatigue back up to 4. Now the difference between him and somebody with normal treasure is, say that I only had a 2 in here and I was going into a 4. So that fatigue would be a difference of 2. So if that had been the case, him doing that would have made it to where he would have only taken 2 fatigue, where any other pirate would have always taken that 4, even though there was only the difference. You always have to take the fatigue for whatever your room you're going into. So it was kind of bad for this example since that was a 0, but normally that's how it would have worked, and that's where his ability would have come into play. Although I keep forgetting, he should have drew one of those. Man, that's a 5. I want that kind of close because it's an explosion, so we'll put this here. Just too excited to play, I guess. Okay. So he actually did his thing. We had our set, except for the fact that we also need a token in that room. So you can see what kind of bad guy's in there. Which it's a trap door. With it being a trap door, we always add a deckhand to it immediately. Okay, now the revenge card. So my second explosion. I still don't think we have any 5s. Nope. Alright, so now Crimson, he gets a 2. I think I'll place up here. And we have to get the token. Another trapdoor. Another deckhand. Alright. He's red. I'm going to use one action to get rid of the deckhand. One action to run. So to run, I get to move 2 spaces, so that's 1, which doesn't give me any fatigue because it's lower, and that's 2, which will, so that's going to give me a 3 fatigue, plus by running I always take a +2, so that's going to give me 5 fatigue. So he's going to jump up to 9. So now he won't be able to go into 4s, rooms with 4s or 5s. I'm going to fight fire. And then using my special ability, I'm going to fight fire in the adjacent room next to me. Make this a 2 as well. And then my last action, I'm going to increase my battle strength. Actually, do I want to do that? No, I'm going to wait. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this to Lydia. So any actions that you don't use, you can pass to the player on your right. And then they have the ability to be able to use your actions that you pass to them, or they don't have to. But if they don't use your actions, they can't pass the actions on. They have to give those actions back to you once their turn is done. And I think right now we're at about 25 minutes or so. So I'm going to go ahead and Actually, we'll finish up. We'll finish with the revenge card, which is my third explosion. Still no 5s. Yep, still no 5s. So we're going to take these. Take my deck. We'll shove them together real quick. Shuffle. So we can at least do my revenge card before I stop this video and move into video 2. Alright, good enough. Good enough. Another explosion card. Actually, I already did it for him though, so I wasn't supposed to do that, but oh well. I'll just put this in the deck.